Sometimes, the hardest decision for a ruler is not fighting an enemy, but passing judgment on someone from his own family. When a father's love for his child stands on one side, and the responsibility of an entire state stands on the other, choosing the right path is never easy. This is exactly the situation Sultan Mehmed finds himself in when his own son, Prince Bayezid, becomes involved in an incident that is seen as a direct challenge to the authority of the state. The Sultan's order is clear: the prince must be brought before him immediately. Mahmud Pasha and Ishak arrive to take the prince to the Sultan. But the prince's mother refuses to hand her son over. She knows that the Sultan is extremely angry, and she fears for her son's life. Mahmud Pasha tries to calm her down. He explains that this is no longer simply a family matter. It is now a matter of the state's command, and no individual's personal wishes can stand against the decision of the state. Mahmud Pasha makes one thing absolutely clear: there is no one in the world who can openly defy the Sultan's command. Those who obey the order stand with the state, and those who oppose it must face the consequences. But the prince's mother is not ready to give up her son. She tells Mahmud Pasha that if the Sultan is angry, then she should be taken before him as well. She is even willing to offer her own life in exchange for her son's. But Mahmud Pasha has no power to change the situation. The Sultan's order has already been given. Now, whatever happens, the prince must be brought before him. Seeing his mother's helplessness, the prince steps forward himself. He tries to comfort her and tells her that, for a while, their paths must separate. He asks her to look after herself and not to suffer because of him. There are no long speeches between them, but both understand how serious the situation has become. The mother can only stand there and watch her son leave. And the prince begins his journey towards the Sultan. Meanwhile, Sultan Mehmed is waiting in his tent. He knows that the prince is on his way. As the news of the prince's arrival spreads, the atmosphere around the palace and the Sultan's tent becomes even more tense. The prince's mother continues to pray. She has only one fear: that her son's life may be in danger. She shares the same fear with Gulsa, who is beside her. She says that if the same fate ever came upon her other son, she would not be able to bear such pain. Gulsa tries to comfort her. She reminds her that the Sultan loves his children deeply. But a mother's heart is not easily reassured. All she can do is pray that her son survives this difficult moment. After a while, Rayhan arrives. The prince's mother anxiously asks her, "What did the Sultan say? Tell me." Rayhan tells her that the Sultan has left the palace and will not meet with her. Hearing this, the mother's fear grows even stronger. She realizes that the situation is extremely serious. She tries to follow the Sultan, but she is stopped. In desperation, she cries out, "They are going to kill my son." At that moment, a mother's entire world is focused on saving her child. She is no longer thinking about her position, the state, or the order that has been given. All she can see is her son. This is no longer simply a family matter. It has become a question with no easy answer. If a father has to choose between his own son and the state, which one should he put first? On one side is the love of family. On the other is the future of an empire. On one side is blood. On the other is the law of the state. This is the difficult decision now facing Sultan Mehmed. Because sometimes a ruler is forced to make a decision that breaks his own heart. Eventually, Prince Bayezid appears before the Sultan. The anger on Sultan Mehmed's face is clear. The Sultan asks why Bayezid did not come before him like an obedient son when he had been ordered to appear. He wants to know why Bayezid allowed himself to be placed in the position of a rebel before coming before his father. Bayezid tries to explain himself. But the Sultan's questions continue. Sultan Mehmed says that he did not raise his sons so that they could ignore the commands of the state. He raised them to carry the responsibility of the state in the future and to represent the Sultan's authority throughout the empire. But when even his own son disobeys the Sultan's command, it is no longer simply an act of family disobedience. It can become a danger to the state itself. The Sultan speaks firmly to Bayezid, "Give me an account of what happened." Bayezid says that he did not act with bad intentions. According to him, false accusations had been made against him. The Sultan immediately responds, "If you were truly innocent, why did you stay away from me? Why did you not come directly before the Sultan?" Bayezid explains that his intention was simply to prove his innocence. He wanted to find those whom he believed were actually responsible. But to the Sultan, this is not an acceptable excuse. Sultan Mehmed reminds Bayezid that he never declared him guilty and never ordered him to run away. If he truly believed he was innocent, he should have come directly before his father. Eventually, Bayezid reveals the real reason behind his actions. He admits that he had fallen in love. When he learned that Suleiman of the Karamanids was being taken away, he wanted to save him. His intention was not to harm him, but to protect him. However, this explanation is not enough for Sultan Mehmed. The Sultan had already made another marriage arrangement for Bayezid. He wanted Bayezid to marry the daughter of Sfendiarolu. But Bayezid's heart belonged to someone else. The Sultan angrily asks, "Did you disobey my command simply because of love?" Bayezid has no answer that can calm the Sultan's anger. All he can say is that the heart does not always obey commands. But for Sultan Mehmed, the real issue is not love, the real issue is that Bayezid disobeyed a direct command. The Sultan tells him that if Bayezid truly believed he was innocent, there was no reason for him to hide from his father. His decision had placed the state in a difficult position. The Sultan makes another point very clear: an ordinary father might look at his son's mistake as nothing more than a family matter and forgive him. But the Sultan's position is different. He is not only a father. He is also the ruler of the state. Bayezid has not only disobeyed his father. He has also disobeyed the authority of the state. The Sultan's position is now clear. This is no longer simply a matter between a father and his son. It has become a matter of the state and its law. Hearing this, Bayezid becomes frightened. He begs the Sultan for mercy. Again and again, he insists that he never betrayed him. He explains that his only intention was to prove his innocence. He says to his father, "Forgive me. Everything I did for you." But the Sultan remains silent. Bayezid's fear continues to grow. He begs his father to spare his life. At this moment, he is no longer simply a prince. He is a son standing before his father and begging for his life. Finally, he cries out, "Father, forgive me." Sultan Mehmed does not simply want to punish Bayezid. He wants his son to understand the seriousness of what he has done. The Sultan explains that he allowed Bayezid to face the consequences so that he could understand the weight of his own mistake. He reminds Bayezid who he is. He tells him never to forget that he is the Sultan's son. Because a single moment of carelessness can change an entire life. One wrong decision does not always affect only one person. Its consequences can reach an entire family and even the state itself. Finally, Sultan Mehmed orders Bayezid to leave his presence. After some time, Bayezid returns. The moment his mother sees him, she rushes towards him. She embraces her son and thanks Allah. For her, having her son return alive is the greatest blessing in the world. She says, "Praise be to my Lord. You have come through this door alive. I ask for no other blessing." She believes that the Sultan has completely forgiven Bayezid. She prays for the Sultan and asks Allah to reward him. But there is no happiness on Bayezid's face. His silence tells a different story. Finally, he reveals the truth to his mother, "He only spared my life, mother. He did not completely forgive me." Hearing these words, the mother's heart breaks once again. She now understands that although her son has returned physically, what happened has left a deep wound inside him. On one side is the Sultan's decision. On the other is a mother's love. And between them stands a son carrying the full weight of the conflict between family and state. This story once again shows that the hardest battle for a ruler sitting on a throne is not always the battle against an enemy. Sometimes the greatest battle is the one a person must fight against his own heart.